Before we begin, please silence your cell phones. Do not turn them off because we encourage live tweeting the event using the hashtag IST Startup. If you tweet, you could be eligible to win some prizes. So Pamela's going to give her talk, but then afterwards there will be an opportunity to ask questions. To ask questions, you can either raise your hand in the traditional way, or you can tweet your question with the hashtag, or you can text your question to the number on the board. If you need stickers for your passport, you can pick those up on your way out. Pamela Sorensen is the founder of Pamela's Punch, LLC, a leading source of information for the who, what, when, and where of Washington, D.C.'s elite social, professional, and philanthropic scene. Pamela's current leadership positions in the nation's capital include Artists and Athletes Alliance Corporate Advisory Board Member, Colorcom Networks Advisory Board Member. Pamela attended Penn State, where she was a Tri-Delta and earned a BA in Speech Communications. After graduation from Penn State, Pamela began her career in sales and business development, working in a variety of industries including defense contracting, professional services, telecommunications, and executive networking. In 2006, Pamela left the business world to launch the Pamela's Punch website. Since its founding, the Punch brand has grown to include a variety of online, social, and live media assets and a team of correspondents, and has expanded into the West Coast market with Pacific Punch. Pamela has built a career on social media, but has made numerous appearances on national and local television and radio stations, such as Peter Greenberg Worldwide and Planet Green's Emerald Green with Emerald Lagasse. Along with the Punch brand, Pamela consults clients in the role of a brand ambassador. She lives in Arlington, Virginia, and loves traveling, fine wine, reading, writing, and not arithmetic. So now please join me in welcoming Pamela Sorensen.
Thank you all for having me yet again for the second year in a row to speak at IST's Startup Week. It's a distinct honor and pleasure. Before I get started, there are a couple of shout-outs I want to give. Obviously, Maria, who is my student liaison for the second year in a row, who's awesome, and I found out was going to be my neighbor in Arlington, Virginia, so I'm excited about that after she graduates. Bob Morgan, who is the chair of the board of IST. He's a dear friend of mine from the Washington, D.C. technology area, and he is very well respected. He's a fabulous guy, and he actually got Maureen Killian to come and meet with me a couple of years ago and take me to lunch and kind of bribe me and talk up IST and bribe me and talk about Startup Week and convince me to finally be a speaker. But Maureen's closer was that she friended me on Facebook. So, so those are some really great people that I have to say thank you very much for being so wonderful. So a little bit about my background, and then I'm going to dive into social media and how to make it work for you. Not against you, for you, because we know that there's ways for it to work against you. My background really began when I graduated in '94, so it's 20 years. It's been 20 years. In fact, I don't even know if you are all 20 yet, but it's been a long time since I've graduated, and I was a speech communications major, and my first couple of jobs out of school were in sales and business development for a variety of different industries. I was selling computer hardware, software, and services to the federal government. I was traipsing around the Pentagon's concrete floors in high heels because I didn't know any better, and learned a lot about technology from those couple of positions. And my favorite position was telecommunications. I was working for a startup, Net 2000 Communications, and that was around the 98, 2001 timeframe. And I was employee 131, and I was living in Fairfax, Virginia, around the Fairfax County area, which is a suburb of Washington, D.C. And around that time, it was really a hotbed of entrepreneurialism. It was a hotbed of technology. This is around the time that I don't know if you've heard about the dot-com era and the big explosive web bubble that was exploding at the time. And the company that I was working for was selling telecommunication services, long distance, local services, data services, internet services, data networks to a lot of these emerging companies all up and down the Beltway and all up and down the Dulles corridor. And as I was working with these companies, not only was I learning a lot about technology, but I was learning about what it was like to work for an entrepreneurial company. And I had a direct connection to the CEO, I had a direct connection to management. I became one of the top sales reps for this company. We grew it to 1,000 people. Although we were based outside of Washington, D.C., we also had offices all throughout the mid-Atlantic, and we even grew into go down to Atlanta. So we had a lot of really great, exciting things that were on the horizon for us. Unfortunately, the telecom and the web bubble imploded, it burst. And that played a huge part in what happened next. And we started to have to cut back, and then 9/11 happened. And so we lost all of our funding, which was a huge tragedy. The good thing about this is that I kind of got an MBA on the job, because I was one of the 50 people who was asked to stay on, and that was called the retention team. And I learned a lot there about what it's like to take down a company that you had built. And it was very, very painful, but it was definitely something that was a huge learning experience for me. So after that, I went into commercial real estate, which was a really dumb thing to do because there was nothing going on at all. There was nobody having any action or no activity in the commercial real estate world. So that was really tough. And one of my managers, the executive vice president, who had worked for it in 2000, approached me and said, listen, I know there's nothing really going on. I know you're really miserable. But what I'd like to do is offer you a position as a corporate or vice president of corporate development. And he said, I started an organization called the Potomac Officers Club. And this is going to be what is going to help to bring back the region. We have all of this talent, all of these entrepreneurs. We have all of these people and organizations and connections that, if we work together, can really bring back the region. So I joined the Potomac Officers Club, and this is around 2004 timeframe. And what my position was I was in charge of all the lines of business. So I was in charge of finding all the sponsors for our events, finding members that were all executives for these events, for all of the networking, finding speakers for our luncheon events, and then for the digital magazine, I was in charge of finding advertisers and finding people and executives to profile. So this went on for a while. It was a very exciting time to be back in that region, and I really felt that we were doing something to help the emerging growth of the region. So also during that time, I was getting a lot more involved in leadership positions with charities. In fact, a ton of different charities. I was on host committees. I was serving on different boards. I was sending out all these emails. Now this is like 2005, 2006. So remember, this is before me being on Facebook. This is before Twitter. And all of the information that I was connecting with people, the way that I was doing it was through email and phone calls, the old-fashioned way. So I would send out emails to my friends and colleagues and other people and say, hey, I have this event that's going on. Could you please buy tickets? Could you please donate a silent auction item? Could you please buy a table? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I was sending all these emails out, and that was taking up half my day. And then this also happened to be around the time in the DC area, because there was so much energy and it was so vibrant, that I call it when the magazines came to town. And this is when a bunch of society magazines chose to rest themselves into the Washington, D.C. area. And they were having events pretty much every single night. And I know it sounds really glamorous because we were going to all these openings, and whether it was an art gallery or a restaurant or celebrities were coming, I was going to all these different events. And so my friends were emailing me and going, what happened last night? What happened last night? Can you tell, what did you eat? Where did you go? Did you see anybody? What did you wear? So I was sending out all that information. And I said, I don't even have any time to do all of this stuff and do my day job. So I thought, if there was one way that I could write all of this information, put it in one parcel, and write it in a way that is my own style, and my friends could read it, my mother could read it, my clients could read it, my colleagues could read it, my neighbors could read it, then it can get back to life. And so I went home one day after an event, and I emailed one of my business partners, and I said, this is what I want to do. And he said, oh, you need to start a blog. And nobody was really blogging back then. So I said, okay, sure. How do you do that? And he said, go to eBlogger. So I went to eBlogger and started my first entry, and I decided to entitle it The Daily Adventures of Pamela Sorensen, which is a mouthful and not something that you should ever do, because as you can tell now, when it comes to branding, a lot of these companies have very short, concise titles. So I started my first couple of blog entries, and I sent it back to the person that was advising me. His name is Brian Williams with Bigot Labs, and he owns a web design firm. And he said, this is really good, but let me just warn you, every day, 1 million blogs are started and 1 million blogs die. And it takes a lot of dedication and a lot of style to be able to keep up a blog. And I said, all right, okay. Now, this is in November of 2006. I said, I guarantee I'm going to do it for more than a year. And so I kept doing it and doing it and doing it and blogging and sending it around by email, and pretty soon people were contacting me, and I would run into them at parties and they'd say, oh yeah, you're the girl with the blog. I really like what you write. So again, this is a personal blog, which is all chronicling the daily adventures. And one of my friends came to me and he said, you should really change the name because you're getting a lot of notoriety, and you should probably brand it and shorten it. So Ted Leonsis, who was a huge vice chairman at, executive vice chairman, I guess, at AOL, and also was kind of a mentor to me. He owns the Washington Capitals, the Mystics, and the Wizards down in Washington, D.C. He's also part of Steve Case's company, Revolution. He had just started a blog as well, and it was called Ted's Take. And I thought, okay, maybe I can follow in his footsteps. And so I decided I'm going to call it Pamela something. And through my advisor, we decided it would be called Pamela's Punch. My other friend, Brian with Bigot Labs, had come to me and he said, you know, we are starting a division with Bigot Labs, and it's a new media division. Back in the old days, we called it new media, not social media. And I said, okay, and he said, you can, we will actually design your blog for you, and we can come up with the colors and the layout, and you can actually make money off of this, because you can put up tile ads, you can do click-through ads, you can have banner ads. And I said, okay, you can make money off of this thing? Sure, why not? Because I still had my other position at Potomac Officers Club, and I thought I'd just do it on the side. So I was doing it on the side, I was getting a little bit of money, a little bit of income on the side. And finally, one day in April of 2007, I said, I'm done with this. I'm going to dedicate the rest of my career, at least for now, to writing this blog and working to get advertisers, because this is something that I really believed in. It was taking up a lot more of my time, and I loved it. 2 years later, after crying every single night, pretty much, blood, sweat, and tears, feeling like I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I was hawking vodka to make ends meet. I was doing anything short of dog walking and babysitting. It was so painful, but I pushed myself, and I pushed myself, and I pushed myself, and finally, it was December of 2008, right before the inauguration, I got a phone call from a friend of mine who was a producer at Fox News Channel, and she said, my boss up in New York asked me to suggest somebody to go and speak on Sunday afternoon show, national television, with Brett Baer, who is, and she said, they were looking for somebody who has their finger on the pulse of Washington, D.C. They want you to talk about inauguration. So I went on, and I remember distinctly, my dad actually took a picture of this and of his on his television screen and gave it to me, but it said Pamela Sorensen, Pamela's Punch, and I was like, wow, I finally made it. I got asked back another time, and then another time I actually spoke during the night of inauguration. And after that, and I'm not going to say it was easy, and I'm not going to say it is ever easy, because it's not. Being an entrepreneur, it's 24/7, and it is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But that was the moment that I said, I actually made the right decision. So fast forward to today, we have a great team in Washington, D.C. We have a couple of folks up in New York as well. We have a great team on the West Coast, and we have a sister site called Pacific Punch. And we have built not only a brand and a platform using social media, we also do some traditional media as well, but regular media. But really, we've built this entire reason that we have clients, and reason that we have partners, and reason that we have advertisers by way of social media. So now we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is how to make social media work for you. I'm going to give you a real quick example. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to do a quick survey. Anybody in this room who does not use social media at all? You don't Insta selfies, you don't tweet, you don't like things on Facebook. Anybody? Okay. How many of you, and raise your hand, oh, you're the one, okay. All right. We're going to talk later. Anybody in this room, you can raise your hand again, you think that you use social media kind of moderately, a few times a week. You're on a couple of different platforms. You feel very comfortable with it, but you're probably not using it every single day. Okay? I see you, Keith. And how about on the other end of the spectrum, people who are addicted to it, use it every day, maybe every hour on the hour, are on several platforms. Okay, this is the majority. Okay, good. So I'm in the right class, sort of. Okay. And we're gonna talk I'm gonna have 8 points actually that I would like to make, and they're kind of high level and just things to really think about, and not necessarily, this isn't gonna be like a tutorial as to here's how you do a tweet. So just please do keep this in mind. And again, remember the theme is how to make social media work for you. I'm going to give you a real quick example. As I was drinking my coffee this morning in the Atherton Hotel, I was watching the Today Show, and I heard about this story of a girl who had been abandoned in some Burger King, I think, years and years and years ago. Anyway, so she was looking for her natural mother, and because she didn't know how to do this, she went ahead and on Facebook, she put up a picture that said, if this is what my situation is, if you are my mother, if you know anybody, can you please help me out? Within 2 weeks, her mother was found. 2 weeks, because she posted something up on Facebook. She obviously made social media work for her. That is really powerful. And so that's a huge amount of power that has been used by Facebook. And let's face it, we learn more breaking news today by way of social media than by any other form of media. Whether it's Beyonce dropping a record or an album, or it's an earthquake, or it's a missing child, or it's even an election, or anything ever. We learn more from social media because it's quick, and it's fast, and it's free. And the reason that I chose this topic of making social media work for you is because, one of the reasons why is because I'm approached daily by people asking me, is there a magic formula? Because I want to be able to do this as well, because I know it's a really good platform to get a message out, and I need to better understand it. Is there a magic formula? How do you do it? How do you tweet? How do you put up pictures on Instagram? How do you do videos on Vine? And I have to tell you, and actually, let me interrupt myself. The other day, I had a friend of mine come up to me, and he said, oh, so you get a lot of free stuff sent to you. Do you just start a blog? Is that what you do? And people just start sending you free stuff? And I was like, yeah. You just start a blog, and the next day, things come like raining down on you, free things. Go ahead and do it. Good luck. So, and by the way, it's probably easier now to do that than it was 7 or 8 years ago. So I'm not saying that's not a way to do it. I'm just saying it's not easy. So really, there is no magic formula. Using social media effectively is both an art and a science. And I want to say that the science is there's really bits and bytes and data. And the art is being able to be very smart about your message. And so the first point that I have to make is, number one, clearly define the who, what, when, where, how, and why of your message. And for our purposes today, message, and just keep this in mind, message is anything that is text and visual. So that's videos, it's pictures, anything like that. So that is your message. Not only is it a message that you have originated, but it's also something that you have helped to perpetuate. So if you're liking something on Facebook, or if you're retweeting something, or if you're hearting something on Instagram, or anything along those lines, that also is part of your message because it is associated with you. Even if somebody tags you and you were like, okay, I'm okay with that, that's part of your message. So just keep that in mind. So who is going to be reading and seeing my message? Who's your audience? Remember, for each platform, there might be a different audience. Some people might only be using Instagram. Some people might be only using Google+. Some people might be only using Tumblr. So each one of these platforms has an audience. So think about who is going to be reading your message. What is my message? What am I going to be putting out there? What am I putting out on the universe, in the Twitterverse? What am I putting out to the people on Foursquare? What is that message? When am I posting? How often? Once a day? A couple times a week? Every hour on the hour? Several times a day, several times in an hour? Where am I posting and sharing? As in, what are the platforms? And I advise you to familiarize yourself with each one of those platforms. There are so many different platforms out there. It is like if you go to YouTube and you watch a video, at the bottom there's like 15 different ways you can share it, and I don't even think that's all of the platforms, which can be very, very overwhelming. So if you're thinking to yourself, I kind of feel like I feel really comfortable with one particular platform over another, that's totally fine. But just familiarize yourself. The other thing I was going to say about that is, if you don't really feel comfortable and you want to learn how to use Instagram, just Google, how do I get the best out of my Instagram account? Or ask a friend, how do you use Instagram? Remember, social media is a full-time job. There's companies that hire firms to do their social media for them. They have divisions, they have personnel, they're outsourcing, all that different stuff. So it's a full-time job. So don't feel like this has to be your full-time job, because it doesn't have to be. Unless you want it to be your full-time job, then go and get hired, because that's definitely an industry. So how? How am I posting and sharing my messages? Am I doing it on a mobile device? Am I doing it on my computer, my laptop, my tablet? And are all of these devices, are they all talking to each other? Do I feel comfortable that if I'm using my mobile device and I'm going to tweet something, that I know how to best make sure that the picture is up and all the tags are right and all that other good stuff? And why? This is really important, obviously. Why am I using social media? Why do I think anybody cares about my message? You have to make sure that you know the why. Let's keep in mind, by using social media, you have the opportunity to build a personal brand. You guys are in a different position because you're in college and you've already started building your personal brand. As I can see, the majority of you have already been on social media and you're using it a lot. You can make your personal brand or you can break it. In 140 characters or one picture, you can make it or you can break it. Just ask any politician or celebrity. You can look like a subject matter expert who's very witty and very smart, or you can look like an over-opinionated fool. Here is the spectrum I like to use. On one end here, you have a total whack job who has no filter, who's using social media. On the other hand, you have a snooze fest, somebody who's posting every once in a while a bowl of oatmeal. You don't want to be either one of these two if you want to make social media work for you. You want to be in the middle, somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with oatmeal. I am saying there's something wrong with this person over here, but that is not for me to determine. That is definitely something else. But you just, in order to make social media work for you, don't be either one of those on the end of the spectrum. So consider where your talents lie as you're making up your message. Are you a really good photographer? Do you love doing videos? Are you really witty with prose? Just put those thoughts into consideration. Okay, number 2. Okay, so now you have this figured out. Okay, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. So now you have to dedicate yourself to making social media work for you. So now let's talk about the message. How are we going to craft your message? What is that message going to be? And in order for this, what I like to share is that you must originate, you must curate, you must participate, you must cultivate, you must reciprocate, and you must perpetuate. So, and by the way, again, I'm going to interrupt myself. As you're crafting your message, do your best not to be a Debbie or a Dougie Downer. You know those people in real life, they walk into a room and you're like, oh my God, they're going to suck the air out of the entire room. And you're like backing away. You're like, I'm not going to get stuck with this person or talk to them. It's like, yeah. There are those people online who are exactly like that. Every single thing they post is like, oh my God, what? Really? I mean, it's every single thing that's negative and it's bad and it's boring and you're just like, pfft. So they are not making social media work for them because you probably stop following them. There's nothing wrong with them doing that if that's what they want to do, but they're not, again, making it work for them. So originate. Come up with some original material, original messages, original pictures. That's important. You have to have it start with you. Curate. Make sure whatever that message happens to be, again, messages for our purposes happens to be text as well as pictures and videos, is something that you want out there. Don't just open, it's just like, have a filter. It's because like in real life, I hope that most of you have filters before you open up your mouth. Have a filter before you put your message out there. Stimulate. Put something out there that will help to start a conversation. Where you're going to put it, whether it's an amazing picture of cherry blossoms or some vacation that you went to, or it's sharing an article that you had found on the internet about dogs or whatever. Make sure that it's something that people are really interested in, and so that they start liking and they start commenting. Participate. Just like you have originated, other people have originated messages, and you should participate in conversations, because you never know what message you put out there that people will want to participate with you. Cultivate. And I say cultivate, I mean cultivate the community that you're creating. This community, this online community that you're creating, you want to just keep them engaged. So cultivate that community. Reciprocate, and I mean reciprocate by if somebody likes something, I end up liking something that they like. If somebody retweets something, I would maybe respond. Or if somebody follows me on Twitter, I might follow them back. So there's a lot of reciprocation. Social media is social. We want to have engaging conversation. And perpetuate. I really hope that you perpetuate really positive things. Accentuate the positive, stay away from the negative when you're perpetuating. Because I know it's really easy to be kind of fall down that rabbit hole of, we're making fun of somebody, and now I'm going to go ahead and like send it out and send it out and send it out. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to make social media work for you, try to concentrate on perpetuating the positive. Okay, so number 3, be known for something. And another along that is try to be consistent with your handle on all the platforms. I know that if you're using multiple platforms and you have one particular name, you want to keep it consistent and not, you want to have people to be able to follow you and to be able to find you. So please try to be consistent, because that's part of building your brand. So if you want to be known for something, are you into travel? Are you into horses? Are you into sports or technology or wine or whatever you happen to be into, cars, whatever it happens to be? Think about what your passions are, what your interests are, what gets you excited, what you feel like you can peruse the internet on all day long and not get bored. I have a good friend, and her handle, and she has her own blog, it's Secretly Fancy. And she doesn't do this for a living, she just happens to love street style. So her Twitter handle is Secretly Fancy, her blog is Secretly Fancy, her Instagram is Secretly Fancy, and she just does it on the side, and she does a really good job. When I think of her, I think, I know I'm going to go to Secretly Fancy, I'm going to find something really cool that she happens to have an interest in, and that is street style. Post your messages early and often, but because basically you're building a reputation and you're building your brand and you're building this community of followers. So you want to be post early, post often, but not so much that you become annoying, but not so little that everybody forgets about you. Have fun with it and learn from others, and along, again, the lines of be known for something. If you happen to, just like on Netflix, if you watch a movie, they'll say, oh, if you watch this movie, you might like this, this, and this. Well, there's a reason why they're suggesting it, because this goes back to the science of it. There's algorithms, there's bits and bytes. Look into them. If somebody says, well, on Facebook, you might like this, you might like this, look into it, because you're starting to be known for something. Number 4, be original. And along those lines, be interesting and authentic. It is okay to retweet others, and it is okay to like other people's material and messaging, but if you want to make social media work for you, do some original material. But also be a part of the discussion that's being originated by another party. 5, be respectful of your brand. It is your name, it is your family, it is the company that you're working for, your employer. It is, again, your name that you're putting out there. So here's this alternate online universe where what we're talking about. And then you have real life. But just because you're doing something here doesn't mean that it's not reflected here, because it is very much one and the same. People will have opinions of you with the messages that you're putting out. So don't think that you can go, well, I'm just going to trash this person, and this person, and put these crazy pictures up of me doing something, blah, 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 and then walk into a room and people who saw that, they're going to have an opinion of you, and that's just real life. So just remember to be respectful of your brand. I'm going to share a story with you that I am fine to admit. I used to have a couple of adult beverages back in the day, and I used to dance on bars. But this is before camera phones. This is before cell phones even had cameras, I think. So I'm not really, I'm not worried about, or I wasn't worried about somebody saying, oh, you know, I'm going to put it up on Facebook and we're going to like make fun of her. I'm not worried about that happening. So use your best judgment in, just as you do in real life, what you put out there in the alternate universe. Because all the world's a stage, and it is not just here, but also in online. And also along those lines, just be careful what you write about race, religion, and sex. That's kind of like a guideline. Number 6, use your power for good. So share funny clips, positive articles, things that are really, you know, just good, because you're perpetuating the good. Thought-provoking quotes, all that stuff, but not just what you originate, but also what others are putting out there. And you can share and you can perpetuate other people's good news. Another great way to use this power for good is through charity fundraising. A lot of people might be running a 5K race or something. Well, if you want to raise money, go ahead and put it on your Facebook page and tweet about it or something along those lines, because that is one way to get a lot of people to support you. Crowd fundraising is huge as well. I have some friends who've raised a great deal of money through crowd fundraising. The majority of where their donors came from is actually from Facebook, their campaign on Facebook. So there's ways to not just use it for personal things, but there's ways to use it for really just for the crowd fundraising and charity fundraising as well. So, let's see. All right, okay, number 7, engage the unthinkable. And when I say unthinkable, I'm saying celebrities, I'm saying companies, I'm saying brands, I'm saying late night talk show hosts, I'm saying politicians, anybody you would think that has a huge universe between you and having access to that person. They're all on social media. They're all on social media for a reason, and they are all engaged in conversations. We, sitting right here, could tweet Lady Gaga if we wanted to. We can tweet Barack Obama if we wanted to. There's a good chance that they might do something back. Never before, and by way of social media, it's basically leveling the playing ground, leveling the platform that gives us access to all of these people. I will tell you a story about how I came home from, and also, by the way, companies are using this for customer service, improving their customer service. And I came home from vacation, and I was using Verizon Wireless, and it was out. And I tweeted something, I can't believe I came home and my Verizon Fios was out. Within a second, Verizon Fios tweeted me back. What seems to be the problem? We went back and forth, pretty soon we turned it to DM, so we were direct messaging. And then I never once got on the phone. I never once had to talk to anybody. Through a process of about 30 minutes, I was able to fix the problem. It was entirely done over Twitter. Had I not, and this is not just me saying that this has only happened to me. I know a lot of people whose situations, whether it's an airline situation, a technology situation, a car situation, has improved because they have divisions of people from like all over the place, focused on when does a hashtag come up, or when does our particular handle come up, and how can we fix this? And again, celebrities can retweet you, they can share whatever, they can favorite, they can respond, and so it's a cool way to get to reach out to those who were unthinkable before. Be mindful of the power. That's number 8. 8 and last. Okay, you don't have to be a behavioral scientist to know that our behavior is changing because of social media. I know I have hand cramps sometimes. I've never had that before. There are sleep disorders. There are distractions. Did you ever notice that people are walking around like this all the time? Well, there's a reason why, because they have something that they're like, that is taking priority over real life, and it happens to be online. There's inability to concentrate for long periods of time. I think everybody's got ADD now. There's eye issues. There's the issue of cyberbullying, which had never been a problem ever before. There's self-esteem issues, and I laugh about this because it's not funny, but it's real. I was out with a group of my guy friends a couple weeks ago, and we did like a selfie picture or something like that, and we put it up on Facebook, and I kid you not, 2 of the guys said to me, if we don't get more than 15 likes, we're taking it down. And I said, why? And they were like, because nothing's worth anything if you don't get 15 likes. It's embarrassing. And I was like, oh my God, that's really how you feel? So yeah, we thank God we had 16 likes, otherwise I would have had to take it down. And I mean, I have grown women who have children who have said to me, oh my gosh, did you notice that so-and-so put a picture of herself up in a bikini and she only got 3 likes? It's really embarrassing. And I mean, this is how they're putting their thoughts that this is what they're worth because of what likes are, and not about anything about who they are. And there's also one of my favorites, the inability to spell correctly or use proper grammar. Because we're like, doesn't matter. Everybody puts that up like that anyhow. No, it does matter. You look like a bumbling idiot if you're putting everything all shortened. So that is definitely a problem as well. And then the worst, I mean, not to be a Debbie Downer, but the worst are the number of deaths and accidents that are happening because people are so focused on, yeah, they say it's text, but it's also checking I'm at a stoplight, so I'm gonna go ahead and check my, or I'm in traffic, I'm gonna check my Facebook feed. You're still taking your attention away from what's going on the road, and that is not good at all. So those are some challenges that we have as far as the power of social media, which is not good. In fact, this is my position, this is my job, this is my profession, so I'm not like, oh gosh, you need to control it or anything, but you do. You need to be able to turn it off. You need to be able to participate in real life. I mean, I'm pulled in so many different directions online so many times that I'm like, I loathe the human race by online. I wish that everybody I dealt with was a dog, because then they wouldn't be like, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you retweet that and do this? So anyway, I would have to change positions if I wanted to work with only dogs. And so it is important to know that you need to turn it off because we have the power to control it. It's called unplugging. Unplug, unplug, unplug. For all of you out there who raised your hand on the third question, there is times when you need to unplug because you guys are in school. Once you get out of school, you're gonna have even more opportunity to be like this all the time or like this all the time. So again, use that power for good. And in closing, remember at the end of the day, it's all bits and bytes, zeros and ones. Like in real life, the alternate universe online, it's about making smart decisions, learning, engaging, having conversations, and sharing. It's social. It's a good thing, as long as we keep it under control. What your message is, what your actions are, and with whom you interact says a lot about you. So embrace social media as best as you can, learn from it, enjoy it, have fun with it, but don't be afraid of it. Guy over there who doesn't use it at all. And use that power for good. And last but not least, and I want to leave you with this, as awesome and as powerful as the world and world-changing that this world of social media is and has on so many of us, there is nothing that replaces the true value of human-to-human interaction. So I hope that you go out there and use your power of social media for good and create some really good messages, but really spend some time with your friends and your family, human-to-human interaction. So that's it.
Does anyone have any questions for Pamela?
Oh, yes.
I'm loud, don't worry about it. All right, you mentioned the big 3, race, religion, and sex, as kind of things to avoid. But we definitely see that rule getting broken a lot, especially with the current social trends moving towards more secular and to be more sexually open in America. Do you think that's something maybe, it's kind of like Pablo Picasso said, you have to know the rules in order to know how to break them. So maybe it's something to maybe not just avoid, but once you have your brand established, then you can kind of start focusing, moving your brand towards those things if that's what you really care about.
Right, so the question is really handling and understanding how to deal with the big three, race, religion, and sex. And should it be something that eventually, once your brand is established, you could go ahead and make your opinions about that. And I don't want to say that you can't and you shouldn't. I'm just saying be very careful about what you comment upon or what you share or what you originate, because, again, what your message is says a lot about you. So if you're very comfortable with saying whatever you want to say, or your brand has something to do with that, that's totally fine. It's just that you're associating yourself with that particular opinion, if you will. In fact, I get asked a lot, are you involved with politics? You live in Washington, D.C. Are you involved with politics? And I don't online have opinions about, some of my friends are so opinionated and they have nothing to do with anything that has to do with politics, but their personal online character, personality is very, very left-wing or very, very right-wing, and they don't care. That's who they are. It's totally fine. Me, because of my particular, and I could go either way too. I'd be happy to put my position out there if I wanted to, but the reason why I don't is just because partially where I live, I want to be able to work with both sides and not be discriminated against or alienate anybody. So that's the reason why I don't. But yeah, I agree. You feel free if that's something you feel comfortable with. Keith.
So you mentioned about using the different platforms smartly. Can you expand a little bit on things like LinkedIn as a professional brand, and then Facebook and Instagram as more like a personal brand, so that you kind of get a better sense of how to use the two? And the party pictures are fine on Facebook, but not so much on LinkedIn.
Yes. Okay. So the question was how on each of the platforms would they be best utilized? And the three that he mentioned were LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. LinkedIn is amazing. I don't use it enough, but it is amazing for being extremely professional. It's a perfect professional way to reach others and to connect with others and to really get yourself out there and get a new job or find out what's going on in the professional world. I cannot stress that enough. It's very, very professional. So much that it kind of gets a little boring after a while, and you need to go on the other side, the dark side, like Facebook or something. And Facebook, I feel like it's a little bit, it's altered a little bit. I don't know that, it's almost getting too adult in a way. So there's a really strong mix of personal and also professional as well. So vetting what you put out there on Facebook is also a smart thing too. If you, for you in your position, I can't see you going, oh yeah, I chugged this beer and slammed it down, that video, because there's a lot of people who are professional who are on Facebook and they would see that. And Instagram I love Instagram. I know a lot of my friends who don't do anything else, and all they do is Instagram, because it's just pictures and videos. It's just pictures and videos and just pictures and videos. And there's some, there's like 5 billion selfies out there on Instagram, which is fine, but it's an easy way to just share stuff about your life if you want. So, and the other thing about Instagram is that I feel like it's mostly just like, even though it's just personal stuff. And there's a lot of, even though they're selfies, there's a lot of pictures of trees and dogs and, it's just like a happy place, I think. Mm-hmm.
Something that we ask applicants in fundraising nowadays is whether they think it's appropriate for companies and universities to use social media profiles as criteria when evaluating someone. And as you're someone who's used social media really positively to influence your brand, and you obviously understand it a lot better than most students, do you think that's something that's fair, or is that something that crosses the line between professional and personal when you as an individual don't get to make that choice for yourself?
Okay, so the question is it okay and fair for companies to look at online profiles of applicants and use that as judgment? Yes, it is, because you are the person that's putting that information out there. It has happened more often than you can possibly imagine. How many times I have heard, I went to that person's profile, I Googled that person, I went to, I looked on the Twitter handle, I did this, I did this, I did this. That person is making really bad judgment calls. That person is not understanding that what he or she is putting out there allows me to give an opinion. The internet is like this ubiquitous out there thing that, I'm sorry, if you're going to be a part of it, you have to know that anybody can see and anybody can make a judgment. What that does, I think, is help the companies that are hiring to make a quicker judgment call, because they could be absolutely perfect in the interview, and then you go and you check out the person's Facebook page, because that person could be not only an applicant, but that person could be an employee, and they're putting up things about drugs, or they're putting up things about inappropriate racist comments or something. And you're like, okay, well, this person is not only making bad judgment calls about representing herself and her whatever, she could be representing my company, and that is a liability. So I believe that it is fair.
Going off of that, if everybody gets to a point where they're censoring their social media like so much that it's professional, wouldn't it skew the judgment from the view of the company, because then everybody's just putting their best image out there and the company's not getting a real good feel for it? Yeah.
So the question is, going back on the other side, what if everybody all of a sudden is curating it so much that they're only putting their best foot forward because they're worried about what a particular company might think as they're making their decision? That's never going to happen. I don't think it's ever going to happen. People are not going to be like, I mean, people are just going to put up what they want to put up. I think, and the message that I really want to push is that it's not that you don't want to have your personal stuff up there. It's not that, and that you have to be all professional. And it's not that you can't share funny things or weird moments or anything along those lines. It's just to make sure that you understand whatever you're putting out there is going to be viewed and judged. So if you think this actually might hurt my chances of getting that job, or this might hurt my chances of joining that organization, or might hurt my chances of anything, then I would err on the side of I shouldn't put it up there. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't put like anything that you want up there. Just know that it could actually hurt it. Yes?
I guess one more question going off of that. So I'm wondering, what do you think is an appropriate privacy setting for example, your Facebook profile? Because I know if you block everything out of the public, then it looks like you have something to hide.
Yeah.
But if you show everything, then you just look like you're an idiot who doesn't know how to use your privacy settings. So where do you think, like, what do you keep public on your Facebook profile?
So the question has to do with privacy and making those types of decisions on this particular platform, which happens to be Facebook. For me, I'm just an open book. I mean, I don't have any privacy settings, but the reason that I don't have any privacy settings really is, I blocked a couple of weirdos, believe me. But my privacy settings is pretty much open, because I use it so much for my business, that my personal happens to be my business and my business happens to be my personal. So for me, I'm just like, anybody can find anything that they want. That's not a big deal. I think it really also depends on why the purpose of why you're using it. Why are you using Facebook? Are you doing it just for family or for friends, or are you doing it so that you want to share a lot of particular information? And I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think that you can actually, with some posts, you can make some private, you can make some public. Right, individual. So it really, you can ratchet it down to make those decisions each time you post a message, or each time you even retweet, or not retweet, but share a message as well. Like who gets to see this? So again, I think it just happens to be why are you sending it out, and who you want to actually see it. Does that answer your question?
I think so. I guess, like, are there specific things that you think always should or should not be public?
As far as what should be or what should not be public, I kind of have this thing about babies and children. I mean, it's my own personal opinion. And I have a niece and I have a nephew, and I know that my my sister-in-law has it private to only her friends because she's a little bit more conservative about who gets to see her kids on Facebook. So that's fine, and she's comfortable with that. I have a friend who posts 5 pictures a day of her baby and has been since the day the baby was born, and which is okay because who doesn't love seeing a baby's outfit and her outfit changes 5 times a day. But at the same time, there's a little bit of concern that there's so much of that and like little kids their pictures being out there so much, it's a little kind of dangerous, I think. So that's kind of the thing that I feel a little bit less comfortable about in sharing all of those pictures of little kids, just because, you know, the internet is full of great people like us and a lot of weirdos as well. Yeah.
This question isn't so much about social media, but you mentioned like being.
I can't answer it. No, I'm kidding.
Being established in DC, and I know it's a fairly like liberal place because I'm from Maryland, so I'm always there. But would you say it was difficult for you to establish yourself being a female and also a minority?
Oh, okay. This is a great question. It's living in DC, being based in DC, was it difficult for me to establish myself as a woman and also as a minority? I gotta tell you, there is no better place for being a woman and a minority than Washington, DC. It is so, you know, DC gets a really bad rap for being super conservative when it comes, I mean, and only because it's only government, it's only military, blah, 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 and everybody wears bad suits. There are those people, and they all reside on the Hill, but for the rest of us who actually live there, it's a really vibrant, engaging, entrepreneurial spirit, culture, where a lot of women really help to empower each other. There's a lot of most of my women friends actually have their own companies, and we all help each other. We all refer business to each other. We all do work, different projects together. As far as minority is concerned, I mean, a lot of these women are minorities as well, and they do an unbelievable job because they are fearless. They're absolutely fearless. A lot of organizations now aren't just, oh, women just helping women and linking arms and walking down the little path together, and we're just going to do something great. They're really impactful, and they're doing things that are changing the world from Washington, D.C., whether it's through philanthropy or even just working with other startups. Politico, which is based in Arlington, where I live, was an upstart started by these guys who left the Washington Post and have blown up. I mean, they have been unbelievable. But they started last year, something called the Women Rule speaker series. And Tory Burch Foundation is also a huge part of it as well. But they work to find, this is a platform where they have a speaker series, but they work to find women who are very strong in whatever their particular industry happens to be. And then they speak at a breakfast series, and they have women that were invited as guests, and there's a lot of networking that goes on. But that's kind of the movement over the past couple of years that's very, very empowering. So yeah, I mean, I think right now is a great time.
I actually have a question.
Yes.
Okay, this isn't so much about social media, but you know, you run a very non-traditional business. You run a blog. It's not a 9-to-5 job. I think it'd be pretty cool if you could just go through what a day in the life looks like.
Okay. So the question is, what does a day in the life look like of running a blog in a very non-traditional business? It is not 9 to 5. It is 24/7. It is literally 24/7. And well, one thing is, yes, I do run the blog, and I do have teams, and I do run the West Coast, and I do have some stuff in New York, but I also work as a consultant as well. So I kind of have 2 businesses that I'm running, so that's also 24/7. So I don't know how I fit all this stuff in 1 week. But really, I'm not a morning person at all, as you know that, Maria. I get up like around 8:30, something along those lines, because I go to bed pretty late. I'm more of a nocturnal person. Although as I'm getting older, that's kind of switching. I'm going to bed a little bit earlier. And I mean, I on my laptop. I have a really bad habit. It's called, I don't know where my phone is, but when I wake up, sometimes at 5 o'clock in the morning and I can't get back to sleep, I go on my phone. I start scrolling and scrolling. See, this is one of those bad habits that you do not want to do. And then, so I'm responding to things that happen to be on that. And then I go back to sleep, and then I wake up, and then I work from my home. So as an extrovert, it's probably not a good thing that I work from home because I need to be around people. I need to feed off the energy of people. So sometimes I'll go to a coffee shop. I have a lot of meetings during the day because I have clients and advertisers that I work with that are asking me to do certain things for them, or I have potential clients that I have meetings with. There's often events that are either breakfast events that I don't like going to, but they're luncheon events that I'll go to. There are then more meetings, and then more blogging, and then vetting through like 30 different emails of pitches that are being sent to me in between the meetings. And then typically there's probably anywhere from like 2 to 3 to 4 events a night that I could be going to and covering or attending, or maybe a dinner or a gala or an opening or something along those lines, where while I'm there, I'm tweeting and Instagramming and doing all these things, and I'm taking notes so that I can write the blog post the next day. And then I go home and I go to bed and I cry. No, I'm kidding. No, I don't cry. So it is, I mean, it's action-packed. It's really, really action-packed, and but it's fun. And, you know, I get people who say, oh, I follow your stuff on Facebook or Twitter. I'm exhausted. How do you do all that? And it's because I also was asked this morning, tell me about your personal life. I'm like, I don't even have a personal life. My personal life is my professional life, and it all kind of melds in together, and I don't suggest any of you kids ever doing that. But it really is something that works for me. I get invigorated by having so much to do that I want to rip my hair out. And that's something that, as an entrepreneur, whatever your business is, or that you end up going down that path, whether it's 10 years from now, 5 years from now, or tomorrow, you have to be able to be dedicated to know that you're probably not going to have a non-traditional business. If you're an entrepreneur, you don't have a traditional 9-to-5 business. I mean, Keith knows he's an entrepreneur. He doesn't have a 9-to-5 business. You literally live, breathe, and sweat your business so that you never even know what a 9-to-5 really is. I don't think there are any 9-to-5 jobs anymore. I don't know, if you work at a bank, maybe. I don't know. I'll take you, and then you. Go ahead.
How do you think the Hartley bug will affect social media in your business?
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, have you heard about the Hartley bug?
No. Tell us about this Hartley bug.
I don't know
Oh.
the entire thing about what's going on with it, but supposedly it's been affecting social media and open source software. I don't really know like the thing about it, but it's like taking a lot of passwords, credit card information.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's about this bug that's a virus or a bug that's taking people's credit card information by probably hackers from someplace far away that is very disruptive to our lives. That's a good question. How would it affect my business? I think it's going to affect a lot of businesses, period, if it's not contained. But I don't really, as far as credit card is concerned, I don't do any e-commerce on my website or any of my brands. So me personally, knock on wood, that won't really be something that I have to address. But I think that people have to be really, really careful. And you know, you got to be really careful what you click on anyhow. And whether it's somebody sending you a direct message or somebody sending you, hey, you got to look at this really cool thing on, I mean, people are hacking into things all of the time and easily. So change your passwords a lot and make them really obscure. That's something I would definitely suggest as well. And you, yes. Okay, so my blog generates revenue by advertisements. In fact, we can go to, how do we go to it? Okay. When I first started and knew that I could actually make money on the on the blog, and that was in 2007 that I actually figured out I could, well, my advisor told me I could make money. He said pay-per-click and those types of ads, and I thought that those are going to be too difficult to, okay, so yeah, if you, I mean, that's an ad space right there, but if you go up, scroll up, yeah, you can keep scrolling. Okay, so this is an ad, this is an ad, this is an ad, this is an ad. Those are, I charge more for these ads, or like the bigger space ads, and then if you keep going down, these are all advertisers as well. So it took me some time to figure out the pricing for each one of these types of, like whether it's a tile ad, or it's a side banner ad, or it's a head banner ad, or there's other spaces for ad. I mean, there's a lot of real estate for advertisements. And the reason why I've been able to even make any money and have these tile ads is because the blog has been around and the brand has been around for so long. In the beginning, I was charging a very minimal amount because I didn't have enough eyeballs. Like, we're getting over 100,000 eyeballs on this particular page a month, or individual eyeballs a month. And then we have the whole entire social media platform. So what happens is I'll say, okay, let's say it's, I don't know, Project Gravitas or something. I'll say, okay, I'll do X amount of tweets a month from Pamela's Punch that promotes your brand. I'll do a couple of different tags on Instagram or Twitter. I'll write a couple copy pieces. You can have a space on the website. I'll do this, and this is how much it is for the month, or this is how much it is for 3 quarters, or 3 months, or a quarter. This is how much it is for 6 months. And so that's something that my clients, the advertisers, and I work out and figure out how much space, how much activity I give to them from Pamela's Punch and send out to the rest of the world to promote them. Does that answer your question? And it's not easy to figure out necessarily how much to charge if you just start, because the people are going to want to see, well, how many eyeballs and how many times are you posting, and how much are people talking about you? What is the buzz? And if you don't have that at first, then you need to work really hard to build that so that you can go to somebody and say, well, these are my statistics, and I can actually charge you this much now. Oh, go ahead.
So with all these startup companies, do you think we're in another tech bubble?
Okay, so the question is, with all these startup companies, are we in another tech bubble? Probably. I mean, it goes around, and it goes around, and it goes around. This is, that's the way the cookie crumbles. I heard, I don't know who was talking about this, but I've listened to so many conversations from people who are experts who've been through several. This will be my, if this happens again, probably. I think it's more about the valuations, the huge valuations that they're giving these startups. But if this happens again, it'll be my second bubble bursting. It's probably bound to happen. I mean, it's not something that we can necessarily escape if it's being driven by the investors. I can't go run out and be like, no, stop,
Anyone else have any questions? All right, well, thank you, Pamela.
Thank you.